Melissa Jefferson-Wooden just did something that should scare every sprinter on the planet. She walked into New York carrying a target on her back, every rival watching, every camera waiting for her to crack under that kind of pressure. Instead, she got faster, and by the time she crossed that line, the entire American 200-meter field knew exactly where they stood, behind her. Let's set the scene first, because this race did not happen in a vacuum. The USATF Outdoor Championships in New York City brought together the best sprinters in the country. Eakin Stadium was packed, and Jefferson-Wooden walked in already carrying the biggest label in the sport. Reigning world champion. Not just in the 200 meters, in the 100 meters too. That is a rare double, and only a small handful of women in history have ever held both titles at the same time. That matters because she made a choice most sprinters never make. She skipped the 100-meter event completely at this meet. Her training partner, Sha'Carri Richardson, took that race instead and won her own national title in it. Jefferson-Wooden saved everything for one event, the 200 meters, and she made that decision look easy. In the opening round, she posted a 22:50. That was the fastest time of anyone in the entire field, ahead of every other sprinter by a clear margin. She didn't need to press. She didn't need to prove anything early. She just ran controlled, smooth, and locked herself into the final with zero doubt about who was the favorite walking in. Then came the final. This is where the story gets serious. Jefferson-Wooden exploded off the line. Anyone who has watched her career knows her start is a weapon. She hit the turn already ahead, and once she straightened out onto the home stretch, there was no drama left in the race. No one closing the gap. No one even threatening to make it close. She simply extended her lead with every stride and powered down the track to cross the line in 21.69 seconds. Now, let's put that number in real context, because a time means nothing without comparison. Her personal best, the fastest she has ever run in her life, is 21.68, so this run missed her lifetime best by 1/100th of a second. 100th. That is the difference between a blink and a half. It is barely measurable by the human eye, and it puts this run among the very fastest 200-meter times recorded anywhere in the world this year. And this wasn't some soft field either. Cambria Sturgis finished second, but she wasn't even close. Sturgis crossed in 22:22. That is more than half a second behind. In sprinting, half a second is not a gap, it is a canyon. Cameron Dixon rounded out the podium in third with 22:58, over half a second back as well. So think about what just happened. Jefferson-Wooden didn't just win. She nearly broke her own lifetime best in a national championship final while making the second and third best sprinters in the country look like they were running a completely different race. This was also not her first national title in this event. It was her second one in a row, back to back. That's not luck. That's not one hot night under the lights. That is a pattern of complete control at the biggest domestic stage in the sport, year after year. After the race, she spoke to reporters, and her words told you everything about her mindset. She said she came out wanting to set a brand new personal best. She didn't quite get there, but she called it a season's best, and she pointed out how close it landed to her all-time fastest mark. Her exact message was that the number itself should tell people everything they need to know about where her form is right now, heading into the biggest part of her calendar. That is not arrogance. That is a champion stating a fact and letting the clock back her up. Here's something important that a lot of casual fans miss. Her biggest rival in the 200 meters, Olympic champion Gabby Thomas, was not even at this meet. Thomas made the decision to skip the national championships entirely this season, choosing instead to focus on select international meets while continuing her recovery from an Achilles injury that cut short her previous year. So some people might look at this win and say, well, her toughest competition wasn't even on the track. But that take misses the point completely. Jefferson-Wooden wasn't just racing the women lined up beside her. She was racing history. She was racing her own personal best. She was racing the standard she built for herself as a two-time world champion, and she nearly matched the fastest time she has ever produced in her entire career, regardless of who showed up to challenge her. That's the difference between beating a field and beating a clock. Beating a field depends on who else lines up. Beating a clock depends only on you. And she came within 1/100th of a second of her own personal history, all on her own. There's another layer worth understanding here. Jefferson-Wooden and Thomas have traded wins back and forth for seasons now, each one pushing the other to run faster. Thomas has openly credited watching Jefferson-Wooden's rise as fuel for her own comeback. So even with Thomas absent from this meet, her presence still shaped the pressure Jefferson-Wooden was running under. Every fast time she runs becomes another number Thomas has to answer to later in the season. Let's also talk about where this fits into her bigger story, because context makes this win hit even harder. Her breakthrough as a dominant global force didn't happen overnight. She battled through a difficult stretch dealing with injuries in the seasons leading up to her rise. She has openly talked about coming up short at the Olympics, finishing behind two other sprinters in a race that did not go the way she hoped. But instead of letting that moment break her, she used it as fuel. She turned that disappointment into one of the most dominant championship runs in recent American sprinting history, eventually becoming the first American woman to win both the 100 and 200-meter world titles at the same championship meet. That history is exactly why this latest win matters so much. It is not an isolated great race sitting on its own. It is a continuation of a run that shows no real signs of slowing down. She is not chasing her prime anymore. She is living inside it, race after race, title after title. So what happens next for her? She has already confirmed her plan publicly. She is heading toward the Diamond League Final, one of the biggest remaining events left on the international calendar this year. After that, she is set to compete at the brand new World Athletics Ultimate Championships, a major event gathering the top names in the sport. And she plans to run both the 100 and the 200 meters there, doubling up once again on the world stage. That event alone is drawing attention across the sport, since it brings together nearly every major sprinter, still standing at the end of the season, all racing for one of the largest prize purses track and field has ever offered. That means this New York performance was not a peak. It was a checkpoint, a signal sent to every sprinter watching that she is sharpening her form at exactly the right point in the season, heading straight into the meets that matter most. Think about the psychology of that for her competitors. If you are another sprinter preparing to face her later this year, what you just watched is genuinely unsettling. She did not even run her absolute best race. She ran a season's best, 100th off her lifetime mark, and she still buried the field by more than half a second without looking stretched. That means her true ceiling, her actual best form, is still sitting there untouched, waiting to be unlocked at the exact moment the biggest titles are on the line. There's one more detail that makes this stand out. She ran this in a stadium packed with fans who came specifically to see if anyone could push her. Nobody did. She ran her own race from start to finish and never looked pressured for a single stride. That kind of control in a final that carries a national title separates a great sprinter from a truly dominant one. That is the real story here. This was not just another national title added to the pile. It was a warning shot. A clear message sent to every 200-meter runner on the planet that the reigning world champion is not slowing down, not settling for good enough, and not finished proving who the best sprinter in the country really is.